Brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, and play cousins. What's good, fam? It's your boy, Professor Michael. Alumni, we back in the house today, getting into REN, the life chapters, chapter 3. Now, you know the first two done took me under. Everybody done warned me already. I'm in for a ride all the way up to the end, so I prepared myself, I think, mentally for this one. But we ain't gonna hesitate. You know, we're just going to go ahead and get right on into it. And we're going to keep, pushing the envelope until I see if REN officially breaks me. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and get into it. Chapter 3 today. Let me do my housekeeping, y'all. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. If you're not already subscribed to Old Heads Media, come on in here, hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you become part of the family. We're growing, we plan to continue growing, and we want you to be a part of it. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can stay up on everything that we do over here. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and knock out these chapters. Number 3. Man, let's go.
My therapist was scowling at my weekly anxiety and depression scores like a detective trying to crack a particularly stubborn case. There were no signs of improvement, and the scores followed no real measurable pattern that were consistent with bipolar. After nearly 2 years of talk therapy and taking enough medications to fill a pharmacy, he sat down with me and he dropped the bombshell that he didn't think that I had bipolar. In fact, he said that he didn't think that I had depression at all. And it was a very odd thing to be stripped of an identity in an instant. The reality was that a 20-minute in-and-out consultation 2 years ago led to 2 years of swallowing pills that I never needed and devoting so much of my time to managing the condition that I never actually had.
Yo, already, we're just getting started and I'm already like, I didn't expect that to go straight into that on this episode. So he was previously told that he had bipolar. So he had to take all this medicine. For 2 years, he was treating himself for bipolar disorder just to find out that the doctor said they don't think that he has bipolar. So y'all just admitted, basically, you just put me on a regimen of medication for something I didn't need. Which, well, I guess it fits. It fits with all the other stuff that he had been going through. He had already been taking all kind of medicine that wasn't helping him. But that's to start out the episode finding out, hey, I wasted 2 years of my life with y'all bull. Come on.
Needed and devoting so much of my time to managing the condition that I never actually had. The emotions inside me swirled around like a mismatched soup. On one hand, I was full of anger and I was bitter about the whole situation. But I was also hopeful that this new path could offer me the relief that I desperately needed. He told me he was going to refer me to an ME clinic in Bath. I'd never heard of it before, but instinctively true to character, I started researching it online as soon as I got home. Apparently, ME is the medical equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Wait a minute. Sleep disturbance, unrefreshing sleep. Okay.
With tiredness as the only consistent plot line. There were no universally accepted
causes and risks. $30 to $60
reasons as to why the fuck it existed in the first place. It seemed it was largely accepted to be a post-viral condition, but that was all speculative because there were no clear consensus in
neurological disease.
the medical community what ME even was. The defining characteristic was a tiredness that wouldn't go away with rest. I could relate to this. In fact, I could more than relate to it. For anyone lucky enough to have not have experienced this, if you want an idea of what it's like, force yourself to stay awake for 3 nights in a row. During this time, eat the food that makes you feel terrible, and in this sleep-deprived state, exercise until your muscles give out. By the 3rd day, you'll have a small insight into living with this condition.
He says, stay awake for 3 days, eat food that's terrible for you, and then exercise nonstop until your muscle, man. And the bad part about it is that probably still don't even tell you exactly how he felt.
In the years post stem cell transplant, where I recovered a lot of my health and functionality, I remember getting COVID and thinking it was a walk in the park compared to the first year of my illness. The difference was COVID lasted about a week. The thick of my illness lasted 8 years, and it only was getting worse. I pinned a lot of hope on going to that first visit at the ME clinic. It was a 6-month waiting list, God bless NHS wait times, but I felt excited to be surrounded by people who would understand me, where I could climb out of this nightmare, but my hopes were pretty quickly crushed during that first visit. I remember walking into a space that looked like a disused classroom where a bunch of people on chairs were sitting around in circles like Alcoholics Anonymous. I could feel a sense of camaraderie and that we all felt like dog shit. We were all confused and we were all desperately wanting to feel better. I believe at the time I was probably the youngest in the group. The group leader waddled in and handed us all a booklet that looked like a school timetable. She then sat us down and told about this new revolutionary technique called pacing, where you write down and track everything that you do in a day, and then you do it less. And then with time, do it more again. The theory being that you have a limited bucket of energy compared to normal people, and you need to protect that and gradually push it. I thought this sounded pretty stupid, so I raised my hand. I told her about the pain in my body. I told her that my muscles twitched constantly.
I gotta go back. That does sound... I ain't a doctor, a psychologist, or none of that, but that does sound stupid. Write down what you do during a day, and then do less of it, and then gradually do more of it. Okay.
Do it more again. The theory being that you have a limited bucket of energy compared to normal people, and you need to protect that and gradually push it. I thought this sounded pretty stupid, so I raised my hand. I told her about the pain in my body. I told her that my muscles twitched constantly. I told her that my bones ached. I told her that my mouth was dry. I couldn't focus. That some days they'd be without mercy and I'd be trapped in bed for the whole day. But the days that I wasn't, I wanted to make the most of it. I wanted to breathe the air and I wanted to live. She told me she understood it's hard, but she didn't really offer more than that. She just pointed at the booklet and told me to follow it. I asked her about things like heavy metal poisoning, about chronically reactivating viruses, about defective mitochondria, about all the things that I read that were linked to chronic fatigue, but she just raised an eyebrow, looked at me like I was a hypochondriac and told me she knew nothing about those things. I remember walking out of the building feeling disheartened and defeated, so much so that my legs buckled as I was walking home. I began to sob uncontrollably on the side of the road. An old woman knelt down to comfort me and asked me what was wrong.
Yeah, because he had just found out he wasted 2 years of his life treating himself for something that he didn't have. And then somebody refers him to a clinic that, again, he got his hopes up thinking, oh man, finally something might help me. And then he gets there just to find out that this person knows less about what I'm going through than I do. Like, how is this gonna help me? Read a book and track my man. I'm sorry. I understand his emotion. When he walked out of there, he probably felt, yeah, that had to have been hard. That had to have been hard.
So much so that my legs buckled as I was walking home. I began to sob uncontrollably on the side of the road. An old woman knelt down to comfort me and asked me what was wrong. I didn't even really know how to explain, so I just told her that I missed my friend. Despite my skepticism, I stuck to the program for at least half a year, and I kept going for my periodic visits to the clinic, and it did jack shit. In fact, I got worse. I was always getting worse. One thing that particularly struck me about the ME support...
That was telling. That was telling. I was always getting worse. And it's defeating. Mentally, it's defeating. Like, here we go now. We're a few years into this thing now. I hadn't even been through COVID and healed from COVID. And I still came out the other side of COVID with this shit. And I'm a few years in, seeking all this help, seeking all this treatment. And no matter what I do, it's getting worse. Nothing's helping. Bruh.
Yeah, and I kept going for my periodic visits to the clinic, and it did jack shit. In In fact, I got worse. I was always getting worse. One thing that particularly struck me about the ME support groups was the pure desperation and confusion. With most other conditions, you're given a diagnosis, a prognosis of whether it's going to kill you, and what you can do to manage it or cure it. With ME, you don't get that. You get an indeterminately long sentence to purgatory. You feel worse than you've ever felt in your whole life, and you're given no explanation as to why, and no signpost pointing the way out. There was no selection bias to the people suffering. Members of the group were anything from esteemed ex-lawyers to single parents to former athletes.
You know, at this point in the process, especially with the way that he just talked about, you're not given any prognosis or diagnosis, you're not given any kind of hope, or like it's just a long, and at this point, you might be, if you're in REN's head, you gotta be, how do I put this? So with all the other stuff that he came up with, he was saying, I'm hoping that maybe this is what's wrong with me so that way I could treat it and I can get better. With this, the ME, it's not beyond reasonable doubt to think that maybe at this point with this, he's hoping that this isn't what's wrong with me. You know what I'm saying? Like usually he'd be saying, I hope this is it so we can treat it. But if they're not giving any diagnosis, no prognosis, no treatment regimen, none of that other kind of stuff to get better, at this point in his brain, he's probably saying, man, I hope this ain't it. I hope this ain't it. Because if this is it, then I don't really have anything to hold on to look forward to. Nobody knows how to treat it except write down my routine. But I mean, I'm just saying, this has got to be that point where you got to be like, okay, please don't let this be what's wrong with me. I don't know.
Athletes. One thing I can say, these people were for the most part all extremely driven and collectively mourning their old lives. There's a stigma that because ME's predominant presentation of symptoms is tiredness, that its victims are just being lazy. I can tell you firsthand that me and every single person I've met with genuine ME would rather run 1,000 marathons than have to live another week with the tiredness and the unrelenting fatigue. We were at war with our tiredness, trying desperately to escape it, and some of us would go to extreme lengths to turn ourselves into guinea pigs to try and find ways out. Suicide was pretty common in those online support groups. It was around this time I was swallowed into the music industry. I was out busking on the streets one day and I noticed this sketchy, good-looking Mauritian guy with his arms crossed watching me, really intensely, as though he was studying every lyric coming out of my mouth. He approached me and asked me if the songs I was singing were mine. I said they were. A big smile was painted across his face, and he told me he just finished recording Plan B's latest record, which turned out to be The Defamation of Strickland Banks, one of my favourite albums of all time. He was looking for a new project to sink his teeth into, and he asked me if I'd come to London to record. We got into it. The whole time I felt dreadful, but this was a lifelong dream materialising in front of my eyes. So bit by bit, when I could, I'd get the train to London and start chipping away at my first ever album. I didn't really let on how I was feeling during this time because I didn't want to sabotage it. There would be times I'd finish up in the vocal booth after doing the take, excuse myself to go to the toilet, throw up from the dizziness I was experiencing, sometimes with specks of blood, and then I'd go back and pretend that nothing had happened. I'd be sitting around with the whole room spinning and would pretend I was fine. There was only so long that I was able to keep this up. Eric told me it'd be a cool idea for me to start going to industry showcases and start building buzz. Performing live like this was a whole new level of taxing that I wasn't ready for, but I was so ferociously ambitious that I just ploughed through. The usual way it would go is I'd be in the back of Charlie's car, the whole world would be spinning, I'd be trying my best to sleep in it all day, parked up outside of whatever venue or pub it was in London, trying to conserve energy for the show. Sometimes I'd cry a little before I performed. My whole body would be burning. Then I'd brush it off and I'd get on stage and I'd perform as best I could. People would come up to me at the end, pat me on the back. I'd smile and pretend to be charismatic. Then I'd get back in the car and I wish I was in bed and have to endure a 3-hour drive back to Bath from London. There was only a few shows where I could keep pretending. I'd usually be trying to disguise the fact that my body was trembling through the fatigue and pain. Eventually I started crying mid-set. It became blindingly obvious to everyone working with me during that time that something was very wrong. I told Eric that I needed to take some time out. My plan was to live at home with my mum for a month maximum, get my energy back, and come and finish the record. That 1 month turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months, turned into 6 months. I pushed myself to total burnout. The distance led to me and that angel breaking up, in part because it was difficult to navigate a relationship when you have so much brain fog, and I didn't know what it was well enough to be able to explain it to her at the time.
Oh, so him and Joe's cousin, as he said, led to me and that angel, bruh. You know, that's another thing when you're watching these artists and stuff like that. Like, you go to concerts and you watch people perform, and even this, that, and the other, and like, it's always funny because we forget sometimes that these people are human beings. Like, REN does a great job of letting us see the human. But when we're watching these artists and these performers and stuff like that, we often sit back and we're like, oh, and they become so much bigger than life that we forget that they're human beings, athletes, you know, movie stars, so forth and so on. Even your favorite person in your neighborhood, your school teachers, whatever it is, like, sometimes you forget that these people lead human lives, that they have human feelings and human thoughts and human trials and tribulations. And so watching him on stage, you know, and him pushing through that pain and that suffering and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny to me that no one, other than the people he was performing with, the people that knew him best, but the people out there didn't know. And it just makes you think, how often have you watched someone or seen, say, even, you know, like here, you know, we do a good job, you know, myself included, you know, I share, you know, a little bit more than most people do on here. And I let y'all into what's going on in my life whenever something's really like bothering me. But even that, there are moments where, you know, I'm dealing with something and you get on camera and you do your job. You know what I mean? You push through it. And then the camera turns off and you might hit a corner and cry for a little bit or whatever, and then get up and fight. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say in all of this is, it makes you think and puts it into perspective that we don't really know what people are going through. And we have to stop thinking that just because somebody has money, or just because somebody has a platform, or just because somebody's a superstar and has fans all around the world, or, you know, has a beautiful wife or a, you know, handsome husband, or whatever the case may be, driving fancy cars, we have to stop forgetting that people are human. And we have to start allowing for human. And sometimes that's even the position that people like REN and other artists and celebrities get into, is fans aren't willing to accept their humanity. So they feel like they always have to perform. Because the minute they don't perform, oh man, we ready to cut their heads off. Oh, he did this. And did you see when such and such did that? And oh man, he was terrible today. And it's like, we don't give them space to be human. I think that's what's one of the things that's so beautiful about the Renegades. You know, I've seen a couple other fan bases, you know, of artists be similar, but the Renegades are on a whole nother level as far as their empathy and their ability to see humanity in a thing, in a person. The way that REN has let you guys in, and the way that you guys actually care about REN the person just as much as REN the artist, hell, if not more. The way that you guys have interacted with me on here lets me know that you see me as human, not just somebody you come to show up and watch on YouTube. And that's beautiful. When you find that, that's why I love y'all. And I always say ain't nothing you can do about it. Cause I know that I'm more than just a YouTube face for y'all. You know what I mean? I know that REN is more than just a celebrity or a music personality for y'all. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to me.
That angel breaking up, in part because it was difficult to navigate a relationship when you have so much brain fog, and I didn't know what it was well enough to be able to explain it to her at the time. With a loud thud, I'd been jolted out of a Shakespearean storyline, I lost the record deal, and I couldn't get out of bed. My friends from Trick the Fox never really...
Oh, so the record label did drop. Okay, so I've heard this story partially, that he signed and that the label dropped him, but I didn't know the story of why or how or any of that kind of stuff. But obviously because he left and didn't go back for 6 months or so, you know what I'm saying? And the label ended up dropping him.
I lost the record deal. And
Funny thing is, I feel like for y'all's sake, for his sake, for independence sake, for his mission's sake and his purpose sake, I feel like him getting dropped from that label may have actually been the silver lining. It may have been the best thing that ever happened to him.
I'd been jolted out of a Shakespearean storyline. I lost the record deal and I couldn't get out of bed. My friends from Trick the Fox never really called to check up on me. It felt like the whole world was moving at lightning speed without me.
That had to hurt him a little bit. Nah, not even a little bit. That had to hurt him a lot. Because these are people that he, developed a relationship with, performed music with. He said that the music at that time was the one thing, that was a lifeline to him. And you guys were a part of that lifeline. And then I got ill and you guys never even checked up on me. That had to, whether he ever said it to them or not, that had to really hurt.
Never really called to check up on me. It felt like the whole world was moving at lightning speed without me. I had this amazing opportunity right in front of me and I was chained to the floor. I was alone. I was sick. I wished that my condition would get it over with and kill me, but it wouldn't, and it felt cruel that it wouldn't. It just let me rot in bed. The whole world would continue to turn and I would rot. In the next episode, I'm going to tell you about a fight with a television and losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. Stay tuned for that.
He started laughing. Y'all, this is episode 3, and y'all told me that it gets worse all the way up to episode 8, but is this for real? Like, he started laughing. Was that a joke, or do I really have to look forward to that in the next episode? I hope that's a joke. I hope that Ren is good with bars, so I hope that's just a figure of speech. I don't know. Come on, man. Y'all, put a laughing emoji or something in the comment section when you get to this part in the video. Timestamp this and let me know if this is a joke. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for episode 4 if this is not a joke. Come on, I'm gonna keep going.
Vision and losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. Stay tuned for that.
Did he say 18 or 80? Let me go back.
In the next episode, I'm going to tell you about a fight with a television and losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man.
He said 80. Okay, I'm taking this as a joke, as a figure of speech from Ren. Losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. I'm going to assume that this 80-year-old man is a doctor. And that was his funny way of saying that was a test or something that he had to get or whatever. Losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. I think that was Ren just being funny. That's how I'm going to take it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to deduce, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to deduce that is what that means. It was a comical way of him saying that he had to have a rectal procedure. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, this is too much. Real quick, while he's on a pause, I want to tell y'all about something that I had kind of a revelation yesterday evening. Ironically, I was sitting up, and there was a documentary that came on TV, and I was watching the documentary, and you know me with my empathetic self, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, and blah, blah, blah. And it was a story that dated back to the Roman Empire, to the Roman days. And and the story was about the untold events of Pompeii. You know, the volcanic eruption, the destruction of the city of Pompeii. And there was another city that was nearby called Herculea or something like that. Those two cities were both destroyed. And they said that the reason why Pompeii got most of the notoriety is because when they dug up Herculea, the archaeologists discovered that they didn't find any bodies, which means that it was believed that the people of Herculea had actually escaped the tragedy of the volcanic eruption, which is why it focused more on Pompeii, because everybody in that village lost their lives. Anyway, that's not why I was saying what I was saying. There was a psychologist that came on there talking about the mindset, or the reasons why, the perception of the reasons why things happened that day, the way that they did, and why the people of Pompeii didn't have the same opportunity to escape that the people of Herculea did. And as she was talking, I don't even know why they got on it, because it didn't apply to those people. But in it, she mentioned something, and immediately when she mentioned it, it made me think of REN. It's funny that he's gotten into me so deep that immediately he came to my mind. But as she was talking, I was like, oh my goodness. I've never heard REN mention this, and this is just a personal perception of my own. But when she was talking, it made me kind of put a couple things in line with each other. One of the things that I thought about was, you know how we all talk about like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, that's something that's even on the spectrum, where people go through trials in their life, and because of those trials in their life, they react a certain way, or they have, you know, reactions to triggers and things like that. But anyway, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the scientific definitions or how this acts. And the REN could probably tell you more about PTSD, and Webby could than I can. I'm just talking about, you know, the fact that I'm aware that it exists, right? Soldiers, people that go through, you know, violence and things like that in their lives, emotional triggers, so forth and so on. But anyway, another thing that they mentioned while they were talking was kind of a flip side to the coin of PTSD, where they talked about this thing called PSG. It's also a psychological thing. And I didn't even know, honestly, I'm pretty in tune with a lot of things of the world. I'm pretty up on a lot of things of the world. Transparently, I had never heard of this before. I had never heard of PSG. I knew PTSD. We've all been hearing stuff like that our whole lives. I never heard of PSG. And what PSG is from the way she described it, it's called post-traumatic growth. So it's not post-traumatic stress, where it triggers a negative reaction. It's where somebody that goes through trials and tribulations in their life actually have a positive response to trauma, where they actually the after effects of their trials and tribulations actually turns them into a better person, and they react positively to things as opposed to reacting negatively as opposed to stress. And when they mentioned that, I immediately said, you know, this PSG thing, if it's a real thing, it really sounds like a REN thing. Like it really could apply to REN. PSG. You guys get the opportunity to look it up. But I actually wrote down a couple of the responses to PSG. And one of the things, let me see. I don't have my notebook, so I'm gonna pull it up here so I can read it to you. Okay, so it says key areas of, hold on, that's the wrong page. Hold on. Let me see if I can share it with y'all. I might be able to share it with y'all. Let me see. Okay, I'm just gonna read just a couple of them. We're not gonna go through the whole thing, but here's what I was able to pull up. It says people who experience PTG often notice shifts in 5 main parts of their lives. Appreciation for life. That's something that we've seen in REN. A greater sense of gratitude and a new value for everyday moments. That's something that we hear REN talk about a lot. You know what I'm saying? And that we can see in him that he, that he can appreciate the moments where he does feel better and take advantage of those moments and try to get the most out of those moments. Relating to others, deeper connections, more empathy, and closer bonds with friends and family. That is definitely REN. You know what I'm saying? More empathy, being able to relate to others, being able to take his story and make them, the way that he tries to make the world a better place and sees people and relates to people, that's REN. Personal strength, the realization that I am stronger than I thought I was after surviving these hard times. That all of these things sound like REN to me. New possibilities, opening up to fresh paths, new interests, and changing life goals. You know what I'm saying? And the last one is, I don't know if this one actually relates to REN, but it does in a certain sense. It says spiritual change, a deeper connection to faith, spiritual practices, or existential questions about life's meaning. Now, I don't know about the getting closer to, faith or spiritual practices, but I definitely believe that this existential questions about life's meaning, I believe that, relates to REN, and that how he, questions things and wants to find a bigger purpose and trying to, I don't know. It's just all this stuff is and it says you can't see this part on the screen. I'm reading it to you, but it says post-traumatic growth goes past returning to normal. It changes you, leading to a higher level of personal awareness and emotional maturity. Anyway, and then I can show you what the definition, it even says up here. Post-traumatic growth is a positive psychological change that happens when a person struggles with a major life crisis or traumatic event. Coined by psychologists, I'm not going to read their names or even try, in the mid-1990s, PTG shows that deep pain can lead to profound personal transformation and a new outlook on life. Anyway, I said all that, and it was described differently than what I just read right here. It was described, a little bit better than that, but it made me think about REN when the psychologists that I was listening to started talking about REN and how PTG is an actual thing as opposed to PTSD, but it changes a person for the better. It makes them become more empathetic. It makes them become more caring. It makes them become, more energetic in trying to accomplish things. It like gives them a new life, a new perspective. Like all the things that we see from REN. And I was like, I've never heard him talk about it, and I don't know if I will as time goes on. But I was like, I'm not trying to give him another psychological title, or any of that kind of stuff. But just hearing that broken down, how trauma can do 2 things in a person's life. It can actually make you better, or it can make you triggered. It can make you, you know what I'm saying? And then I started thinking, is it possible to have both? Is it possible to have PTG and have a new outlook on life and then still have triggers that send you spiraling at the same time? These are the kind of questions. REN does this kind of stuff to me. I've actually become so in tune and so honestly considerate of REN and wanting to know REN. That's why one of the reasons why I would love to just meet him and just sit down and have a conversation or just be in the room and just observe. He ain't even got to talk to me. And I'm not even talking about just at a concert. I'm talking about an actual room where I get to see day to day, like life or just hang out or whatever the case may be. I want to be in that room because I am so interested in who Ren is. I can study the music here, but there's only so far you can go with studying him here. And I really admire this guy. Anyway, I know I drug y'all on giving y'all a new thing. You can go look it up yourself if you want to, but it was interesting to me when I heard them talking about that last night. When she started talking about PTG, I was like, PTG? What the hell is PTG? And then they elaborated on it a little bit further, but they didn't go too deep. So then when they got done, I actually started looking it up to see if I could find out what it was myself. And I was like, damn, all of this sounds like Ren. Anyway, let's let this video finish. I probably just drug y'all on for 10 unnecessary minutes talking about something that y'all didn't care nothing about. Okay, this is the part where y'all say, okay, brace yourself, Michael, it's song time. All right. Let's go.
Patterns are composed by a time bomb for an author, like pigs to the slaughter. A symphony of self-doubt sings out, breath starts getting shorter, running water. It's the state that I wish to become. Instead, concrete envelops my movement and I'm rendered deaf and dumb, unable to heed the advice of others. Don't tell me things will get better, cause so far things haven't gotten better. I've got the sweater, poster child, bipolar, ADHD, therapist, wet dream. I don't want to talk about my father, I don't want to talk about my dead friend, I don't want to talk about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself and realizing that talking about myself never ever helps. Still, I call for help, cause I really want help. But the pills didn't seem to help, and the therapist didn't seem to help. But still, I want help. I've danced with the devil in hell. I've sat in a prisonless cell, and here I always dwell, in this prison in myself. I do this thing where my mind travels back to the golden age. You know those times where you were carefree and everything was golden? The golden age. You know those times where everything was golden, where you were carefree and everything was golden?
It's getting hard already. I noticed something was going on. Underneath that, there's two voices playing. There's his voice, and then there's like a deep voice, almost like a subconscious voice. That's layered. I always say I don't know if you can hear it where you guys are. I hear things a little bit differently. Naturally, anyway, I hear things differently than most people. But then even in my headset, I hear it a little differently. And there's two voices there playing. It's overlaid with another audible voice that you can actually hear. But I'm gonna go back and let it keep playing. This is I'm feeling that type of way, but I almost didn't even stop it to point out the fact that I could hear that other voice because I'm feeling some type of way about this part right here.
To the golden age. You know those times where you were carefree and everything was golden? The golden age. You know those times where everything was golden, where you were carefree and everything was golden? The hardest thing I ever had to do was come to terms with the fact that that time never really existed.
Yo. Thinking back to the days when, blah, 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 when everything was, the hardest thing I ever had to do was come to terms with the facts that day never existed. Bro.
Carefree and everything was golden. The hardest thing I ever had to do was come to terms with the fact that that time never really existed. I've always felt so fucking detached and broken, bruised and mismatched. Find it hard to relax, living under the cracks. Tried to fill in the gaps, lying here on my back still.
Only Ren could do that. I say it all the time. Take something that's so innately emotional, and the way that he just added that drum and the bass line and all that kind of stuff to it, and then started doing his spoken word in a poetic fashion. in a cadence. It actually adds more feeling to what he's saying, as if him talking wasn't enough. Now he activates the senses, so to speak. Before you're just hearing him, you're just listening to him. That music turns it from a thought to a feeling. He's genius with this stuff, man. But he's getting me too. I'm gonna hold it together though.
What I had to do was come to terms with the fact that time never really existed. I've always felt so fucking detached and broken, bruised and mismatched. Find it hard to relax, living under the cracks. Tried to fill in the gaps, lying here on my back. Still, I can't find it. Sense of peace in my mind declined it. Pulse increase and my sweat combines with a feeling so deep I fall inside it. Depression.
The gaps, cracks fall inside it, bro.
My back, still, I can't find it. Sense of peace in my mind declined it. Pulse increase and my sweat combines with a feeling so deep I fall inside it. Depression, I hate you. Depression, your constant oppression. Respond with aggression. They say depression brings you lessons. Constant stressing conceals blessings. You will grow in broken settings. Fuck those lessons, fuck depression. I've been living in your shadow for so long that I forgot how I can shine. How I can find a refuge in my mind. How am I meant to sit here and unwind? The planets align. I feel like I'm cursed. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to hurt. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to bleed. But my demons been feeling this way since birth. Depression, I hate you. 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 Depression.
Yo, man.
Cool.
Let me cut that off. It just skipped into the next one. I'm sorry, y'all. Bruh. Yeah. I'm gonna move past. I'm not going back. I told y'all some of these I'm not going back through. It's too personal. That's too personal coming from his heart. To try to then go back through and say, this is what this meant and this is what that meant. It's like, nah, this is not one of those things that's open for interpretation. You know, REN is pouring his heart out right now. These are his thoughts, his feelings, his emotions. These are not songs. These are not open for interpretation. This means exactly what it means. So I'm not messing with that. One thing I will tell you, it was one thing when he was talking, as I started to mention, when he was talking, he was, you know, saying his words, and then you start to, you can hear it, and it's like, oh man, I relate to that, or oh man, I understand that, and all this, that, and the other. You can hear it, you can relate to it. You know what I mean? But then when that second half of it comes in and he brings in that bass line and he brings in all that, it's like it went from I can relate to ooh, I felt that. I can feel it now. It changes the senses. It changes how your senses respond to it. And then as it went on, with each change, added a new instrument. And by the time he got to where he was just adding like the little dun, 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 when he was adding that in there, by that time it seemed like every change, you could feel that little thing going up your spine, like that little tingle. It was like it just added a new, like you felt it a little bit more and a little bit more, and it just, your body wouldn't stop tingling. You know what I mean? All the way up until that last part when it dropped off. And then when it dropped off and he got to the part where he said, I fucking hate depression, and then you could hear him getting emotional. And it's like, okay, that it was almost like he intentionally wanted you to feel it, so that way when he got to the end, and told and said, I fucking hate depression, and he started to feel emotional, it was designed so that your emotions would match his at the end. So when it got the best of him, that would be the point to where those words at the end wouldn't be just words to you. He had to get you from listening to feeling, so that way when he got to where he really, to the end, when he felt it, he knew that it wasn't just words anymore. I don't know. I'm not making sense of what I'm saying right now. I understand it in my brain, but man, Ren, I've lived a pretty difficult life. And I used to tell people, why I've never decided to write a book? People have told me that I should write a book. And one of the reasons why I always tell them that I have not and have no plans to write a book is because of two reasons. One, most people would not be able to embrace my real story. Most people would not be able to understand my real story. Even though there are people out there with the same story, I'm not gonna act like I'm the only one in this world. I'm not narcissistic enough to believe that I am the only one who has suffered through what I've suffered through in my lifetime. With that said, though, the second reason is because I always said that if I ever sat down and wrote out my real life story, the actual facts, most people would take that book as fiction. Most people would say it was made up because it's so far out there that most people would probably say there's no way somebody actually went through all of that and still gets up and smiles every day and still gets up and pushes on and is still trying to be as insightful and helpful to people as I try to be, and still has the heart for the world that I have, which is another reason why I think I connect and love REN so much, is because I'm witnessing somebody having gone through traumas and trials in their life so extreme that most people would not be able to comprehend. And then after having had conversations and reading some of the chats that you guys have posted, it's really like a large support group, so to speak, because I see that there are other people that have also had your traumas, and which is why it makes this relationship, so beautiful and so appreciated. It's because the one thing that you want sometimes when you're going through, even him, when he was going through his trial, and I could say that probably most people in the chat, most of the renegades can attest to, is when you're going through trials and tribulations in life and life is literally kicking your ass, a good majority of the time, you're not even looking for somebody to give you answers. You're not even looking for somebody to fix it for you. A good majority of the time is, all I want is for somebody to see it. I want to feel like I'm not crazy. I want to feel like this ain't just in my head or this is just me. All I want is for somebody to see me, to see it, to acknowledge it. Even if you don't have the answer, even if you can't do nothing about it, you can't fix it. And shit, most of the people, I don't really want your advice. I don't want you to fix it. But damn, it feels good every now and again just for somebody to acknowledge that it's real, that you see it, and that I'm not just making this shit up, that you're not looking at me like I'm crazy, or that somebody actually sees me. And that's why this group is so special, because you guys all see each other. I've seen the way that you guys interact with each other in these chats, and it's beautiful to watch. You guys see each other. You see me. You see Ren. And I see you. To the next one, y'all. Thank y'all for riding with me. I love y'all. Ain't a damn thing you can do about it.